Nexus Consulting. I wonder who they are out there. And then on federal legislative and administrative issues, policy, and the county's advocacy efforts. And so, of course, we have Bob Holmes and Anna Ma here that are Nexus Consulting. And here, while we do it, let me just do a quick check-in of the board, everybody to say hello. So go through District 1. Patrice.
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody. And Anna and Bob, it's good to see you still virtually for a little while longer, I guess. And also happy end of August, I guess, on to September.
All right. And District 2, Hieronymus.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone. Glad to see you. Wish it could be in person, but hopefully soon we'll be back in person. So I'm looking forward to a good meeting. Thank you.
All right. District 4 would be Judy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Anna and Bob and other staff that are on the phone and everyone else. So looking forward to a productive meeting this afternoon and see where we're at with things and things like that. So I'm thankful to be here too. Thanks.
All right, fantastic. And then last but not least, our Vice Chair, Lena.
Hi, Bob and Anna. It's always so good to see you and be able to hear your voice. I'm off camera, so it's just the way things work these days. So, and really good to see you, though. I can see you.
All right, good deal. Okay, Steve.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, of course, it's always good to see Bob and Anna. And of course, we wanted to take advantage of them being in the neighborhood today, but unfortunately, we're not able to be in the neighborhood with each other in the same room because we're still not able to broadcast and do a hybrid. And so I know those were some of the improvements we were making in the system, but working around that, we do have Bob and Anna. They are in town. They're just down the street. And so it's almost like they're here. I know also we were trying to make some time with individual appointments, but schedules are real tight. So in a default, trying to default to what we could do together, we asked everyone to come together today. You know, this is a publicly called meeting of the Board of Supervisors. And of course, it's the opportunity to do a check-in on all the things that are happening. We do have other staff here with us today. Jay Krustelman is here, Jay Smith. I think Chris Pastors might be able to check in as well. But again, we're able to look at some of the various things that we've been connecting with Bob and Anna on throughout the year. I do have, and I will share with you, share a screen though, some of the information that we put together, just a list of all of the types of things that we're working on. And are you able to see the list that I'm sharing? Or are you not? I just need to check in.
I would say yes, but
let me try it again because that didn't work.
I saw it for a minute there.
The font is small.
yeah, exactly.
If you can zoom in, that would be great.
I will. I just wanted to see if I could get you.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
So just making this large. And so just wanted to go through, of course, some of the issue areas that we've always had focused in on congressional advocacy. And you can see forest restoration. Jay Smith is here today. Rural economic development. And I don't know, in the interest of time, Mr. Chair, if you want me to go and just cover the bullets verbally or categorically. Of course, restoration, you see forest restoration is here. And the sub-bullets get to some of the issues that we've been working with Bob and Anna on. Of course, supporting policies and funding, incentivizing forest product industries to harvest and process low-value timber, and you can see the rest there. Also, the Fry project initiative is listed. And so that's an issue, of course, to support the decisions to select a contractor for phase 2 in a timely fashion. And so that might be an issue that we want to just pause and say, let's do a check-in on that, you know, with regard to what we're hearing locally, as well as what Bob and Anna might be hearing in their network of the status of Fry in the process. So, Mr. Chair, I can pause at this point and just open it up for discussion with your permission.
Yeah, why don't we just go a bullet at a time? Steve, we got an hour and a half. I think we can cover this in that time. So yeah, it provides the opportunity just to check in, see where we are with each. And so we're on bullet 1, forest restoration. And, you know, we could start with that Fry piece. Did you want to say anything on that, Patrice, since you're the Fry person here?
Yes, thanks, Chair, and I appreciate that. And of course, I see that Jay Smith is also on, and Jay is also an active member on the Fry with the Fry shareholders group. Last that I have heard is that they unfortunately created a bit of a controversy with the Fry stakeholders, and that is that they are not. This is not going to the proposal. Is not going to be awarded as it was planned. They're now talking about the end of September or later. And unfortunately, that's causing some consternation within the Fry stakeholders group.
Jay, did you want to add anything?
So we just found out Monday that the chief executive of the Fry group is Jeremy Kruger is leaving to go to a position in New Mexico closer to family. Last time this happened through like 4 or 5 interim chief executives, details kind of thing, you know, with the Forest Service, and it took over a year for them to get somebody in place. In that position, you know, it's one that spends a lot of time kind of relating messages back and forth between the actual Forest Service and the stakeholder group. So, you know, again, it's kind of back to the same thing of staffing issues, and then, you know, we have this as Supervisor Horstman talked about, this little debacle this last meeting where industry was, you know, continuing to show their frustration of the lack of making a decision, and the Forest Service kind of taking offense a little bit to that. So, you know, it's something that we've discussed. I discussed it with Cinema staff when they were here. They understand the frustration, but because it's a contract, negotiated contract, the Forest Service can't even talk to Congress or senators or anybody about it. So we're kind of all in the dark for a little bit.
Right. So this is an opportunity, you know, for Bob and Anna. You know, we don't just have the Fry, but we have the other pieces of the forest restoration, which you've helped us out quite a bit with. But do you want to comment? You know, what are opportunities? What are the dynamics associated with these?
Yeah, we'll happily jump in, and Supervisor Horstman and Jay and Chair Ryan and Supervisor Fowler and Supervisor Begay. Wish we could be with you in person. We're just down the road. We miss you. We hope to see you soon. But I just want to touch base quickly on Fry and echo what Supervisor Horstman said. We're hearing the end of September. I've actually heard as late as the end of the year, and with that change, that's not surprising. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a contractor out here to thin these forests, because it's been carrying on for way too long. So with regards to forest health, as you know, Senator Sinema's staff, Chris Phelan, Dan Winkler, Ben Stewart, and Austin Kennedy were up here last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess now. And they, you know, obviously Senator Sinema wrote this infrastructure bill, and it doesn't include only what you view as traditional infrastructure, roads, bridges, airports, highways, transit, and rail. It included some of these other things that are really critical to northern Arizona and Coconino County specifically. We're talking forest health and forest restoration, huge bump ups in funds for federal roads, the FLAP and the FLTP programs, just that we can really take advantage of in the county. And you know, one of the things we're working on, we'll talk a little bit more about it later. I know Lucinda wants to talk about it, especially is EWPP, the Emergency Watershed Protection Program, and some of the things we're doing there. We can save that discussion later, but obviously forest health is of huge concern. Just an FYI too, this is more insular to the city, but also to the county. There's Senator Sinema and Senator Kelly are asking for 2 specific earmarks for the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Program. That will, one's $3.5 million, one's $1.5 million. They were not put in the House bill because the House had different parameters for what programs you could put in. So they'll likely be in the Senate bill, and we'll have to duke this out in the House and Senate conference. But a lot of great stuff going on with Forest Health, and we owe a lot of credit to our senior senator, Senator Sinema, who wrote this bipartisan infrastructure package and really did incredible things for Arizona. There's also that water infrastructure. There's a lot of water infrastructure in that bill, as well as broadband and a whole bunch of other good things that the county can take advantage of. But really great stuff for Arizona.
And as the process continues on legislatively, we'll keep you guys appraised as to where we are and the new numbers that may or may not come out as things change.
And Bob, I spoke with Matt McGrath, the district ranger for Flagstaff Ranger District. We kind of ran some numbers. They have about 200 acres left of FWPP in the museum fire area that needs to be completed. And we estimate that at $2.5 million to do the work. But the road that goes up there keeps getting washed out, obviously, with these flood events. And they're estimating, their engineers, $2 to $5 million to get that road into shape where they can actually put crews up there safely. So just to finish that portion of FWPP is going to be, could be $8 million or better. So just so you know, those are some numbers that we came up with last week.
I appreciate that because I was unaware of that, Jay. So very helpful.
Yeah, just to say for the sake of the rest of the board, FWP Flagstaff Water Protection Project. But it's a tax initiative where they work together with the federal government to do thinning up on Dry Lake Hills, and they're also we're targeting Mormon Mountain. Do they have any? So that they're focused more on the Dry Lake Hills for that. I'd ask. Do they have anything in there for Mormon Mountain or not?
For Mormon Mountain, is that what you said?
Yes.
No, not that I know of at this point, but we'll continue to work on that. And there's a lot of discretionary fund available within Forest Service. And one of the things that, again, the Senator Sinema did is really bumped up funding for forest health and forest restoration. So we should take advantage of that. Obviously we've got a very good relationship with a lot of the folks, and I think it's in the very near future we should probably have a meeting with the new Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment, and discuss some of these things that are really important, and see if we can get in on the ground floor so we can get some funding once they get the new budget year. It starts in theory October 1st, but we'll be running on a continuing resolution probably till the end of the year.
Okay. All right. Check in with the board, other board members. Any comments or questions? And I'm on my. Oh, go ahead, Lucinda. I was going to ask you if you had comments. So, okay, go for it.
All right. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add that Neil Chapman shared with me last week that there are still remaining funds as well within the original FWPP bond that can be applied to the remaining acres of FWPP, within the Spruce Avenue watershed, the museum footprint. And that was the top priority coming out of the summit last week, is that we can't have the rest of that watershed burn. Now, some of it is just hard rock. It's the base of Eldon, and there isn't anything to thin, but the areas that can be thinned are the number one priority, because if 52% of that watershed burned, if the other 48% burned, minus that hard rock, we're in a much worse position, obviously. So that's a high priority. And then, as Jay shared, that if they don't have a road to get there and get the timber out and the dead and down out, it's not going to work, right? Obviously, they got to be able to get the timber in and out. So So that's of critical importance, but there are funds that the city has that can be dedicated to this. So I think right now there needs to be a discussion there because I think there's a desire to perhaps spend those on the other side of the mountain, not where for FWPP. And we need to make sure that they're prioritizing the highest values at risk there. The other thing is relative to Mormon Mountain. And I think as we've looked at that more closely, Chair Ryan, is that there's certainly some effort needs to go in there, but there aren't as many acres at risk there, given the analysis done by Jay Fuller. And the other pieces where I think there's still an intention, right, Jay, to go back after REPI funds. And I was curious, Bob and Anna, if you've looked at anything, is there anything in there, any of these bills of increasing the funding going into REPI that, or, you know, that, and they don't have to answer me that right now, but if you could look into it to see, it'd be good to know kind of where is REPI going right now in terms of funding. That could be a really important funding source for a number of things, not just this effort. So anyway, I just wanted to share those points. Thank you.
Lucinda, we'll look at the REPI stuff and get back to you on that. But
Great.
I think the numbers generally in the forest health and all this sector have been trending upward.
Yeah, it begs for the question, are we ready to pivot as we have opportunity? But these are discussions that we'll see how it unfolds and how to place priorities on it. Just for the sake of the board, you know, probably another piece of this is, so, you know, generally at this time of year, we meet with Bob and Anna, give or take a month here or there, but it's a nice lead in to looking at what we had in the past. Are there other things we want to consider for the future? And, you know, kind of start to wrap together a federal agenda that provides them enough time to really, you know, these are issues that we think they're right, we can really work on. These ones will take a little longer. You know, it's more of a dialogue that we're in right now. And then we have the opportunity while we have them on hand to get to details associated with it. So just on forest restoration, other board members, do you have any other questions or comments? I can't see the full screen, so you just need to speak up, okay?
Mr. Chair, if I could ask Jay to mute his mic, please. I get a lot of feedback from you. Thanks. Go ahead, Miss.
He must be in University Heights or something like that. Yeah, there we go. I am not seeing other board members, so oh, Geronimo, did you bubble up? Did you want to comment?
Oh, sure. So with the delay in funding, how does that change the timeline for what the Fort Fry project will be doing? And I know that's kind of open-ended, but I was just curious that if it's delayed, what are we looking at? Because
Are you talking about the proposal, the delay, and the RFP's been issued? They just haven't awarded the RFP yet.
yes,
And the RFP was supposed to have been done, oh my God, in June, then July, and then August, and
so they're barely putting out the RFP.
yeah, it's so
Okay, I
the
didn't understand
RFP
that. No, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
they put out the RFP, what, Jay, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I mean, they've been delayed multiple years now.
Yeah, it's more now about them making a decision on a contractor. They've gone through all the negotiations. Now they have to decide on one or multiple contractors. And there's lots of hearsay about why they're delaying it, whether it's waiting for ARP funding to see if there's going to be additional funding for this project, which there likely will be. So we don't know exactly why, but it just keeps getting delayed.
But your point,
Because industry is struggling.
Supervisor Vasquez, is really a good one. And that is that the delay in awarding the RFP is in fact delaying our efforts on forest restoration. There's no question about it. So I think you're on the right track, and that's exactly what the concern is, right there.
All Right.
My sense is the other reality of this is that they need money to fund FORFRY. They're not going to, I'll say, extract from private industry the level of perhaps value that they wanted out of FORFRY without investing more money than they have in their budget. So I actually think probably one of the things that's going to happen is if the infrastructure bill gets passed, they're going to take a chunk of that money and fund FORFRY and other landscape projects in the West. And that money won't be available for other acres. And then it's going to be really incumbent on us to then argue that the priority acres within FORFRY need to be, frankly, probably reevaluated to prioritize those acres that have significant values at risk down below for post-wildfire flooding, and try to move those acres forward sooner because they take more money to thin. And so, I mean, either way, arguing this case that the only priority, they can't just give the Forest Service a buck of money and say, go do X acres based on the lowest cost per acre, because the acres that really need to get thinned, that have the public impacts, have impacts on all the rest of the federal agencies, NRCS, FEMA, are these that have values at high risk. And we've got to change that conversation. So.
Okay, I'm going to move us on because we've got
Mr.
multiple.
Chair,
Okay, is that?
this is Lena. I
okay,
just
go
want to add that we just don't have FORFRY forests. We have to always remember in these conversations that we still have the North Kaibab. So that's all I want to add. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lena. Okay, so we've got multiple areas here. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just waiting for you, sir. I'm done.
Okay, the rural economic development piece, did you want to go into it? Or?
Sure. So 2 items here, one of several bullets though, but the ones we listed today: support and enact the new Promise Act legislation to fund rural economic development programs for entrepreneurship and redevelopment following the decommissioning of Navajo Generating Station. And of course, introduced by Congressman O'Halloran. And I know that Supervisor Fowler has had some conversations with the congressman, so she may want to provide additional comment here, Mr. Chair.
All right, Lena?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bob and Anna, this bill, I'm not sure where it is. Do you know where it is in the process now?
No, it's been referred to committee, but they haven't taken it up yet, Supervisor. The problem is right now they did ARPA and they did the infrastructure package, and that's kind of sucked all the air out of the room. So there hasn't been a lot of movement on the Energy and Commerce Committee and in the Natural Resources Committee with regards to other legislation. I know Congressman O'Halloran has been pushing this really hard and is trying to find a sweet spot to fill this in, but it's just been a victim really of the schedule at this point. So we'll check in with his office because we know how important this is to you, Supervisor, and we'll give you a status report in the next week or so about where it is and what their strategy is with regards to moving it, because we know how important it is to you.
Well, I think it's very important to our county, and actually this bill actually covers the whole country. It has a lot more than just our region, even though we work with them and it's really watered down for our region. And we just need to support it and see what we can get out of it. I still maintain that, the Bureau of Reclamation funding that was coming to our region for the power plant until 2044, that should come back so that we can, transition into a new economy. When the federal government closed down these military bases, they reinvested in those communities. A power plant, and it's the only power plant in the country that was approved by Congress. And they have a federal responsibility. They disappeared like these these other private companies and nonprofit companies that just left and left us hanging. So I think the federal responsibility, corporate responsibility is still there, and they're not doing anything to address it. I know there's other dollars they're pointing at, like in the EDA and these other special coal impact counties, but those are not enough. That's for across the country. We're the ones that are directly impact. Where in that sense, you can say, and you can actually use the word unique, because it is unique to our area. So that's all I would add to that. But Colorado Plateau Economic Development Alliance, and just moving forward with our plans in the region. So thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the next bullet is support funding and program prioritization to fully utilize 3,000 available acres at Camp Navajo for diverse economic development opportunities. And this is out of your district, sir.
Yeah, and actually it's a broader piece that we did together as a board with the joint land use study. We've held off some of our federal asks associated with that so that the implementation plan had a chance, the group had a chance to work together. And, this is a piece that you guys are well aware of. Camp Navajo is working on it. It's one that we're able to respond to our regional partners. What are the opportunities associated with it? Some of it could be aligned with the Jobs Act, but it depends on Camp Navajo. They need to put some of their plans together also. And now that they have the legislation associated with the 3,000 acres, what is the spinoff? And then we have a whole grant for some of the planning associated with it, not the full economic development component, but a smaller piece of it. But it's one that I think at this point, it's reaching that level of we need to start considering our federal opportunities associated with it. And then I'll pause here. So rural economic development, Bob or Anna, do you guys have any comments or responses? I'll check in with the board also.
On the overall rural economic development, obviously, we'll keep in touch on the Promise Act and follow up with the county manager on other opportunities, especially with rural development and the other agencies as they're going through their budget process. But I also think with Camp Navajo, definitely, legislation's coming through, very key legislations, and we'll follow up on funding opportunities, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, we'll enhance the communication associated with it from the implementation committee. You'll see bits and pieces of it sprinkled through here, part of the forestry, part of the REPI, etc. on it. Let's see, board members, any other comments on economic development?
If I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Patrice.
Well, and obviously there's going to be economic development, rural economic development opportunities in the infrastructure bill as well. So that's going to be very exciting. And, certainly there are other rural parts of Coconino County that could likely benefit as well from this. So that's going to be something just to kind of keep our eye on the prize there when that comes forward. So, and then Matt, I was always excited when I was attending those JLUS meetings, and excited to see that finally go forward. I think that's a really important economic development opportunity for that Camp Navajo area out there. So excited about that going forward.
All right, thank you, Patrice. Other board members? I see Geronimo bubble up, or you're just on screen?
No, I'm just on screen, but since you
Okay.
called me, I'll go ahead and say I'm just really intrigued by the available 3,000 acres at Camp Navajo, and curious about some of the diverse economic activities or opportunities that are planned so far.
Yeah, and I'm not going to explain it all right now, but a lot of it is the forest industry potential. Could be there, could be elsewhere, as well as other pieces. But we can get an update to the board some other time associated with that.
That would be great, Matt, because it's been a while since we've talked about J-Luce. That'd be fabulous if you could give us an update.
Yeah, I I'll get Steve and staff to pull that together, but yeah, that'd be great. All right, and I'm not hearing, Judy, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just basically, I want to reiterate what my colleagues are saying regarding economic development opportunities. And I'm really thankful that, we are being updated with the efforts and the plans that have been coming forth even from years back. And I think we just need to really keep on top of it and keep, supporting it and moving it forward and see what happens, down in the long run. But I'm hoping that, we would be able to be heard, and that, whatever wishes that we have for our county for rural economic development, that comes forth through and comes through for us. So I just want to thank you guys for this time.
All right, thank you, Judy. Okay, why don't we move on to the broadband, Steve?
Sure. Broadband, of course, support federal investment in rural commercial grade broadband infrastructure to promote equitable access to such technology. So let's see. Chris Pasteurs is on with us right now, Mr. Chair. If I could ask Chris to offer a few more introductory comments on this topic.
Thank you. Just the other week, Bob and Anna, the IT department and economic development department, who are working on a middle mile project that's from Flagstaff up to Page, or up to the Arizona-Utah border, and also along I-60 through Tuba City. We did a presentation on where we're at with that broadband project, and I think when it comes to advocacy for this type of project, is really the number one challenge that we have is right of way, closely followed by funding. Now, there's private enterprises that are looking to partner with us in terms of the that middle mile project, and so we're entertaining those offers. So that's kind of a side issue. Those offers aren't any good unless we're successful in obtaining right away along the 89, which goes across some private land, which probably isn't a problem. But the most critical issue is the Navajo Nation, the sovereign nation land, and so that would be an area of support that we'd be looking for from those in other seats that oversee right away for broadband open access infrastructure projects. And I say open access because it's a little bit different model that we're pursuing rather than the some of those closed access networks that are predominant across some of the more populated areas.
Yeah, and let me chime in here. Thanks. It's good to see you, Chris, even if it's just by Zoom. But really, some really good news. Again, Senator Sinema did yeoman's work. She added $65 billion in the bipartisan infrastructure package, which I think will become law here around the end of September, beginning of October. And that will be for first, middle, and last mile projects. So there's going to be a ton of money available. Obviously, some of the challenges in rural communities are, as you mentioned, Chris, finding those partners to help put the infrastructure in. So we're working with her staff to continue to kind of fine tune some of that stuff, but she's really adept at this and looking at this as a huge potential problem. So let's continue to work with her and her staff. Senator Kelly's been engaged. Obviously, Congressman O'Halloran has been really engaged on this as well. He's on the ENC Committee, Energy and Commerce, which has jurisdiction over broadband. His old staffer unfortunately left, but he's got a new staffer, Jonathan Life, who's working on these issues, and we continue to engage him on some of these things. But there's CARES Act funding for broadband. There's been some ARPA funding for broadband, and now this infrastructure package. So I'm glad to hear that I understand some of these challenges, and I appreciate you bringing those up, and we'll work with the senator's staff. Right of way is always going to be a huge issue. I mean, for always right of way is an issue whenever you're putting infrastructure in. So appreciate that, Chris.
All right. And so on broadband, obviously it's a big opportunity, one of our priorities that we've kept in place. Let's see, other supervisors wishing to comment? Sounds like.
So one of,
yeah, go ahead.
this is Lena. When we
Go.
talk about right-of-ways, what we need to do is, if there's any regulations or anything that needs to be loosened during this time, I think that would be very helpful. It's not just for broadband, but it's also for water projects and sewer. Those are great challenges. These are new dollars that all of a sudden hit the table, and now, local governments and organizations are see how to be able to get those right-of-ways and other necessary approvals just to get those things through. So that might be some kind of consideration, understanding there is public safety that is also there. A multi partnership with ADOT, with the just the private landowners, and it's a multitude of partners that want to work together, but there's procedures that are in place that have not been cleared yet. So how do you work around those while at the same time understanding public safety and other safety measures that are all necessary when you have those things in place? We all understand that, but that's where I think broadband, this particular project is been working with everyone. We've been having Zoom meetings on them, just trying to get these, making sure that this broadband is laid down. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lena. Other board members? Okay.
Just real quick, if I can, and obviously we're working on, there is a lot of money coming out for broadband, both there's with tribal entities as well. And it's going to be really important that we really enter into partnerships to get the best bang for our buck, and quite frankly, to get the best coverage we can in Northern Arizona for broadband coverage. I mean, we all know it is a key, it's really fundamental economic justice and fairness. So we're all really excited, we hope, about the money coming our way for broadband and rural broadband on the opportunities it can present to us here in Northern Arizona. So obviously that remains one of our top priorities, Anna and Bob. So anything else we need to know or keep us informed, that would be great.
Will do, Supervisor.
We'll keep an eye out.
We know how big this is, an issue this is, and we need to take advantage of it while the iron is hot, so to speak.
And we agree, broadband is important all across the county.
Yeah, it's only federal health is about the only way we're going to get it done in rural areas, to be honest with it. So really appreciate all the work that's been done, and see if we can take advantage of the opportunity. Okay, I'm not seeing additional comments, so why don't we go ahead and move on to item 4, museum flooding. Steve.
Of course, museum flooding, funding from NRCS through the Flood Control District, looking at a variety of funding opportunities to fund and support mitigation. I know there are several individuals that would like to comment on that too. So, Mr. Chair, how would you like to start, with staff or board members first?
Why don't we go with staff, just so that we get the background associated with it, and then we'll come back to the board and fill in the gaps there.
So Lucinda will say a few comments then.
Thank you. Yeah, I think as we've been discussing with Bob and Anna, and they've already been providing a tremendous amount of support. I think the number one priority for the county is getting the Emergency Watershed Protection Program refunded. right now, we have requested Natural Channel Design to provide a conceptual level plan for both on and off forest mitigation and watershed restoration efforts like the alluvial fan and channel stabilization efforts, those types of things, as I'm getting an alert for for the museum area. And I think we're going to end up right now as a placeholder that USDA threw down on the list was, I think where we have 1.8 million on that list right now. We're looking at increasing that probably close to 6 to 8 million in terms of what's going to be needed to fund those measures. And so the goal is to get you that initial conceptual plan and figure next week, because we want to update that wait list figure for museum fire on the EWPP wait list so that it accurately reflects what we need. That was just a figure that we don't even know where the 2.4 came from, to be honest. But anyway, they deducted out what they provided, the overall amount, what was approved for the measures we just completed in Mount Eldon Estates, which, by the way, performed really well through all this flooding. So anyway, that's the number one priority, as Bob and Anna know. And then I think for the county too, the other priority, of course, is support for the forest restoration that needs to be completed in that watershed. And then third is ensuring that within the infrastructure plan, there are significant funds for, I'll say, more traditional flood control, of which the city's really going to be the one to need to pursue that to, potentially upsize and their system to try to accommodate greater flows. Again, we won't be able to accommodate every storm, but try to accommodate more of the storms. Many good ideas came out of the summit, but those in an urban area, it's going to take some significant resources to make improvements to their existing infrastructure and add infrastructure as well to that system. So I think the infrastructure bill is kind of key to that, as well as the city considering using ARPA funds and other funding that might be available as well. So
I think that's
current FEMA funding, going after grants. I know there's more money, I think, in the infrastructure bill for BRIC, I believe. The BRIC grants, very hard to compete for, particularly given what just happened in Louisiana, probably. But so.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a good intro.
Okay, and then let's just go to the board, and then we'll swing back to you, Anna and Bob, unless you guys want to hop in, just, swing in there. Okay, board members.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have a sense if the city's planning on using ARP money for that flood mitigation in the city of Flagstaff, and particularly on Grandview, and then later on down into the Sunnyside, Arroyo Seco area? Any sense?
My understanding is that's going to be part of the conversation. They're going to have a conversation on the 7th as well about their ARPA funding. And then again at their budget retreat, which is toward the end of September.
We'll ask them as well.
Say that again, Bob.
We'll ask them as well.
Yeah, so for the question Geronimo just asked for clarification. So right now, it's the desired intent, but you got to go through the process itself. And so they got to work it up through the council and staff recommendations. Is that what I'm hearing?
I know that what I've been told is it's one of the discussion items for the use of ARPA funds. That's the extent, and that was shared by the deputy city managers.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Patrice?
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks. And Geronimo, that's like a very important question, obviously, and that needs to be ongoing partnership and collaboration with the city of Flagstaff on this. And Bob and Anna, I'm not sure if you know, but I can tell you that the county took the lead on getting together an incredible team of city, county, and staff and our partners to try to come up with potential engineering designs for mitigation efforts because of the museum fire, which, as we know, starts up in my district. And Geronimo's going to blame this all on my district, but it starts up in my district, which is right below, of course, the museum fire scar. Does Mount Eldon Estates, carries it down through Paradise, carries it down through Linda Vista, goes around Grandview, cross Cedar, and then into the Sunnyside area. Some of that, of course, is up in Forest Service land, Forest Service property. And then as it comes into the city of Flagstaff, those are established neighborhoods, they're established streets, there's already established stormwater system that's in place. So it really creates an unbelievable challenge that the county and the city of Flagstaff face going forward, because we know, we are hopeful that we're going to have some more monsoons and that we will have monsoons in years to come. And the museum fire scar has definitely created a different watershed flow dynamics that is going to affect Coconino County and the city of Flagstaff for years to come. And so we need to deal with it. This engineering summit, I know that both Supervisor Vasquez and I attended. We both felt a certain amount of relief that there was actually things that we could do. But because quite frankly, it was looking pretty bleak there for a while. And so we really appreciate everybody kind of thinking outside the box and coming up with this wonderful engineering design. But boy, is it going to be expensive. And obviously we have some money for the infrastructure bill. EWPP hopefully can help us really address the alluvial fan that needs to be created, outside in front of Mount Eldon Estates to lessen that flow down into the city of Flagstaff and into the Sunnyside neighborhood. So, I hope that they have shared that information with you, Anna and Bob, because it's extremely, like I said, great work, Lucinda and staff and group, because it was really gives some hope as to what we can do going forward for mitigation. We know it's not going to end it and it's not going to end flooding, but we can do something to mitigate our neighborhood, mitigate the flood and the damages for our neighborhood. So thanks. It was good work, and going forward, we need money. We need money.
Well, probably, I guess a couple pieces as Lucinda was outlining the priorities. The only reason that one would be our last priority is it's falling within the city boundaries, more of a stormwater component as opposed to flood control. But if there's any way we can be an ally in support of their efforts in that way, I think, that's a desired outcome that we have associated with it. Since Bob and Anna, you'll have that hat to wear as well. However we can help in that way is an important piece. Go ahead, Bob.
No, I'll defer to Supervisor Began. I have some things to add at the end, talking about some of the things we're doing back here. So I apologize for interrupting, Supervisor.
Okay. I just have, I'm not sure about this reimbursement that we're not getting back from, previous work that was done by the county. I understand, there's fundings that have kind of go back and that we're not getting reimbursed for it. That would really help if that could happen, from prior years, with for floods and whatever, that money was used for. But on the other hand, I had two communities, which is Moncopie and Bird Springs area. They pretty much were hit the hardest as far as under District 4. And I know that I've been told by administration here, this administration, that, Navajo Nation gets their funding from the state and federal directly. So therefore, these monies that we're talking about can't really be used in those areas. So that's what I was told. So a lot of services, even in this, even in what we're talking about in the flood, these places are very rural. We're talking about rural broadband. We're talking about on the reservations, Mon Kopi, the Hopis and the Paiutes, and we have the Navajo Nation. So pretty much, they're really not being assisted with flooding, only maybe grading here and there, just maybe 2-3 miles here and there of the area that I'm talking about or near the area. So who and how can we be able to work, or is it really, the Navajo Nation that's supposed to, tackle these, anything that's going on the reservation? So, and I did bring up this a couple of times in our board meetings that, we have the people that are voting in Coconino County, and our mission statement and our vision statement states that was to serve the members, to serve all residents within Coconino County. But when it really comes down to broadband infrastructure dollars, infrastructure dollars, flood dollars, those things are pretty much, I'm told that, you have to, Navajo Nation gets direct funding, so they're responsible for that. So it's like, it puts me in a position, because I have 6 chapters that I oversee, and I know Kopi also, and so it kind of really puts me in a situation where I feel like I'm helpless. But I have been really reaching out to the Navajo Nation, to see how, how some of those dollars could be used over here. The Navajo Nation is the furthest away from Western Navajo Agency. So everybody gets their share of it right in that area. And Lena and I can probably vouch and say hardly anything comes to Coconino County on all the way across to the western side of the reservation. So we're kind of, like a stepchild, and so we're kind of like, I'm just thinking that in that way. So one is a reimbursement. I don't know how we can get that, what can be done so that the county can get reimbursed. Secondly is these fundings that we're talking about is very it's just strictly for like maybe Page, Flagstaff area and other areas that are not on the reservation. And that's the way, that's how I'm perceiving it. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, but that's a huge concern to me, especially for our rural communities that we serve. There are other areas too, but I just want to bring that up. Thank you so much.
So,
Mr. Chair,
yeah, go ahead, Lena.
Is there, for the museum work that's being performed, could we try an earmark? Is that something that's possible, Bob and Anna?
Well, the answer is this year, probably not, but certainly in the future, Supervisor Fowler, I think that's a really good idea. We just would have to figure out what program we could qualify for under the earmarks. But I think that's a really good strategy, Supervisor. That might be a good way to go about it.
Okay, just following Judy's comments, some of them as they pertain to legislative efforts. Part of it is we'd have to be coordinating depending upon which Navajo Nation or various other groups that you had mentioned, other tribal groups. The part of it is coordinating with them and how we would coordinate with them. If it came to federal legislation, could we, similar to the city of Flagstaff, it's in their jurisdiction, they do the project, but if they are doing a project, can we advocate on behalf of that project for them? And so, there's a certain level of staff work that would need to be done to see it applied specifically, say, to those types of events. But that's kind of the working way that we can look at this from a federal agenda piece. I have Lucinda up here. Go ahead, Lucinda.
Just to respond to Supervisor Begay's comments, first, in terms of the reimbursement, we had major efforts. Bob and Anna were very supportive of continuing to bring up with DEMA and FEMA reimbursement for the original investment that we made in 2019 for the mitigation. And I will say that's been delayed. I think part of it has been they were waiting to see if it would flood. I think that's part of the reality. The other part of the reality has been the COVID. And frankly, the part of the messaging now that we need to add to this, and Bob and Anna have agreed to, in fact, they've drafted a letter to go from the congressional delegation to DEMA and FEMA, pressing to get this review done of the expenditures, the 1.5 million that we spent in 2019. So I think we're going to be in a better position to get a fair hearing on that now, just because of the realities. So we will pursue that, and I'm hopeful that we will be successful, at least getting some portion of that, up to 75% of that recovered, reimbursed. Second is relative to flood control district, and then the funding as well as the infrastructure bill. And I think it'd be good, Bill, Bob and Anna, if you could, I've asked them to continue to monitor the monies that are going to tribal and what will go to tribes through the infrastructure bill. I understand, and they've shared this, that there's a significant amount of money going into tribal transportation funding. And so we're very hopeful that Navajo Nation will get a significant component of that funding, and that will support them with moving forward with more projects. I think then it really becomes an advocacy effort by the chapters and the supervisors to really articulate what are the needs in Western Agency. There's always been a predominance of that funding going to Eastern Agency, as we know, but making sure that the projects that we've been interested in seeing move forward, that they have not had the funding for or have not had the capacity to implement that. The money goes into developing that capacity and moving those projects forward, hopefully. So in terms of flood control, the district doesn't have authority to do work on Nation. Again, they're eligible through resources at the federal level to manage flooding impacts and so forth, and stormwater impacts, those kinds of things. Just statutorily, we don't have that authority. So anyway, I just wanted to share those points. So we are working on that reimbursement. We're taking another run at that. And I want to thank Bob and Anna for supporting that. Thank you.
All right. Any last comments on museum flooding or flood control since we crossed over there?
Chair Ryan,
go ahead.
I want to jump in and echo a lot of what Lucinda said and thank her for all of her advocacy on and I know this issue is kind of front and center, and I kind of just want to update you and the board about what we're doing. Obviously this issue is really important. We need funding to help alleviate this awful monsoon season. So kind of the things that we're working on are really a couple of things. First is long-term EWPP funding. And we've been working with Senator Kelly's office, Senator Sinema's office, and they're working to put it either in the infrastructure bill or in the budget reconciliation bill. That may or may not become law. It's a little more controversial, but the infrastructure bill should make it into law. The second thing we're working on is getting an exemption to perform mitigation work on public land, specifically Forest Service land, which is where the museum fire emanated. And if we could do some of the mitigation measures up there, it would help downstream, so to speak. And the final thing, and I haven't mentioned this to you guys because we're still working on it, is we are working closely with Congressman O'Halloran's office as well on this issue. And he is trying to secure long-term funding, at least 300 million plus up in the budget reconciliation bill, as well as this language to allow work on Forest Service land to insert into the budget reconciliation bill. And we've been working closely with Paul Babbitt on his staff, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get those priorities funded and that language into the budget reconciliation process. So we'll continue to work on those. I didn't want to really update you on that until we know we had a potential to get in, and we don't even know yet if we're under the rules, we'll be able to get into the budget reconciliation process. But that's certainly our strategy now, because we know that bill is the next big thing they're tackling. So thank you, Chair.
Gotta hit the microphone right on. All right, thank you, Bob. Yeah, no, that's great. And we've gotten bits and pieces of the report, so that's good to get the update on it as well. And it's looking ahead. So we've got about 20 minutes. We have 4 more pieces, and we have whatever else the board wanted added. I know I have an element that we didn't put in this one, but I'd like to have it added in there if possible, if the board's in agreement. But let's go on to the American Rescue Plan, Steve.
Mr. Chair, I'll just make a couple comments on this. Of course, ARPA money has been released. We've received the first tranche of funding at Coconino County. We're going through a process of identifying, of course, within the guidelines, the eligible projects. We'll be presenting the first phase of that to the board on September 7th, which looks at some of the elements of the 22 budget that we were considering to be ARPA-able. But one of the important part of it, which of course we really want to thank Bob and Anna for, was their work on helping us get the interim guidance adopted to include impacts to the criminal justice system. This is a nationwide impact. Of course, it occurred as a result of COVID. Case backlogs are tremendous. In our case, we're looking at booking trials into 2023, which of course is not a good thing when you're delaying justice. And so we really want to credit Bob and Anna for their advocacy in working with NACO and Treasury to make that happen. So I'm going to stop and just see if there's any comments from the board or from the board at this point in time that we can take to heart.
All right, comments from the board. Okay. Not seeing them at this point. And for the sake of the board, really appreciate it. Definitely we see the potential application of ARPA where it's needed. Your efforts to help focus on our behalf would be wonderful.
Yeah, let me just add one thing, Chair. One of the things we worked out from the beginning when they first started doing these COVID relief packages was increased flexibility. And we think we've gotten Treasury, we've been working with Jake at Treasury, really, really hard. And NACO deserves a lot of credit as well, to allow counties to have as much flexibility in using these funds as possible. I understand they were trying to put these guardrails so there wouldn't be a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse here. But what they discovered was that each county is really unique, and certainly what's important to Westchester County in New York is not going to be the same as Coconino County, Arizona. And we'll continue to work with Treasury to allow as much flexibility as possible for you all to use these funds in the way that you best see fit as the economy recovers from this terrible pandemic.
Definitely good. Okay, let's go on to the American Jobs Plan.
So the bullet, as you see here, supporting significant federal investment through the Jobs Act, the plan in a variety of different areas, as you can see here. And so I think it's probably just a status to see where that legislation is at this particular point in time.
All right, any comments or questions associated with that one? No, we pretty much. go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, this is
Yeah.
Lena.
Go ahead,
I
Lena.
I thought at some point I was told that the O'Halloran was trying to put the new Promise Act into this bill. I don't know if it's true, but you said you'd check into it. So thank you.
I'm Supervisor, the answer is yes. The likelihood is that it likely will not be in there, but we're working really closely with Congressman O'Halloran to see if we can find a place for this. And we know that Chairman Grijalva, who also has a referral from his committee, has been working really hard to include this as well. So we're continuing to work on that. I just don't know if it's going to be germane to the bill, but we continue to work, to find any avenue to push that bill into legislation.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, wildland fire resources.
And Mr. Chair, you'll recall during the Raphael fire earlier this summer, we were in a situation where we were competing for air resources between us and the fire that was next to us. I forget which one it was, but it was down in the Payson area. And so we were very frustrated when we were hearing from Forest personnel that we were competing, and it was, they certainly couldn't tell us, they couldn't take a side on this, but we were basically being alternate resources for air. We all needed them. And so the big concern was, why do we have such few air resources in this part of the country, where we knew and we heard from others in the field that there was actually surplus equipment if you went up to Montana and some of the northern forests. Of course, it's seasonal, but again, I think the bottom line is more rare resources are needed all at the same time, because that's what we get in terms of fire season. So, and I know there was letters written to the congressional delegation that Bob and Anna helped us draft and submit. And so I think maybe with the new forest chief for the Forest Service on board, we may be having a new opportunity to have new conversations on that topic, as well as forest restoration. Thank you.
All right. Any comments from board?
Chair
Go ahead.
Ryan?
Go ahead, Patrice.
Yes, and thank you for putting this on, and Anna and Bob for your advocacy on this. This is really important. And, we had the broadband fire, and we had our backbone fire, and the Raphael, and they both, we were sharing resources. Meanwhile, Raphael had Flagstaff right in its crosshairs. And it was very frustrating to think about the fact that they were making decisions based on resource availability, not on necessarily what we really needed to protect ourselves from this, from the Raphael wildfire. And yes, we do need to continue to advocate for more resources during wildfire seasons here in Arizona. This is the new abnormal, I guess, and we need more resources up here. WIR will be meeting in Salt Lake, as we know, in October. We are hopeful that we can carry this message to the new, that we can carry the message back with WIR and with Forest Service, the new Forest Service chief, because this is a very important element here for protection here in Coconino County and our community. So thanks for your continued advocacy on that.
All right, other board members? Not seeing that. Go ahead, Bob and Anna, any follow-up on that?
No, I just said, we're excited to have the new chief, Randy Moore, at WIR and NACO, and I know Supervisor Horstman has asked us to draft a letter under her signature, requesting for a meeting there with them. And I think, have this open-ended discussion is really important. The one thing I will add is that Arizona consistently has the highest wildfire acreage burns every year, and we don't make the news. It's the Dixie fires and the California fires that get in the news, and we need to. What we've really tried to do is take some of those resources from some of those regions, such as the Northwest, that have gotten plenty of rain, maybe not this year, but in previous years, and see if we can move that money to Region 3 so we can capture that. So we don't have to spread our resources too thin, and we do have the money and resources to fight these terrible fires.
All right, and I know, yeah, Senator Kelly got pretty interested in this. We'll see. Yeah, obviously, it's got to come at a broader federal level, but yes, definitely a big piece in there. Next item we have is the REPI challenge grant.
Right.
Steve.
Mr. Chair, again, just the bullets that you see the application process, and of course the county plans to submit based on staff discussion. So this is a topic you wanted to expand on. You're muted, Mr. Chair.
I did it again. Yeah, and it's not just REPI. The REPI grant. So the whole joint land use study and the implementation program, we built synergy that's built around the plan. So the REPI challenge grant is an element that plays into our forestry efforts, and we have applications, whether it's down by the interferometer associated with Mormon Mountain, or it's Bill Williams to a certain degree. We have a potential of channeling additional money. Our acquisitions that occurred at Frontiere property, a lot of feedback and money that helped us pay for all those efforts have spun out of the J-List program and what we're doing associated with it. Now that the implementation committee is rolling along, the REPI challenge grant is a big one that I know Jay's been working on as a possibility for us doing some of our forest restoration. Beyond that, we have lighting the dark sky for the sake of the Naval Observatory. So the whole intent is protecting the military missions of the Naval Observatory and Camp Navajo. Some of their efforts are becoming prominent. We are initiating conversations with state to see if we can resolve maintenance issues with lighting, but we might have to take it to the federal level if we can't, if state defers to federal highways on the lighting and the particular wavelength associated with it. The other component, two pieces that are spinning off is O'Halloran is introducing language associated with state trust lands, the possibility of doing in lieu. If you remember, we had that proposal of suddenly losing all those state trust lands in the region. The discussion became more practical of, that you can't just do carte blanche. Is there a better way of doing this? And so that ACE initiative is one that he's working on that could benefit our management. And to go along with that, Sentinel Landscapes, there's the team, the Naval Observatory and Camp Navajo working together are working on pulling partners together to see and what with the desire of one of the outcomes that was in the J-List of implementing a Sentinel landscape, kind of like at Fort Huachuca and a few other places in the country. So what I'm suggesting is that we add to our federal agenda at this point, now that the implementation committee is activating some of these, a piece that falls into our federal agenda. And some of these, they may go away if ADOT helps us out with maintenance issues with the lighting. But if not, we might have to bring it up to that level. And that's one, I'm kind of doing a check-in with the board of, it's very consistent of what we've had in build in our plans, how we've been proceeding. It's where we've gotten a lot of the money that we've pulled our grants off, although you usually see it associated with one application on what's happening. So I'm suggesting that we get a more organized effort around the J-List and these pieces that are spinning off. And actually for Bob and Anna, it would help you because you're getting bits and pieces, but there's some that coordinate with each other that you may or may not know about on that. And so, my question to the board, would you be okay with that? And, one of the spinoffs is the REPI Challenge Grant. It's not the only one. And I see Patrice nodding her head on that. Check in with other board members. You okay, Geronimo? Good. Judy, are you okay?
That's good.
Lena says yes. Judy? Okay, not here.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, just mute buttons, I'll tell you. Yeah, all right. So anyway, and you know, we're not going to put a heavy burden on you, but it's now, they're right at this point on that. So this is the opportunity also to turn to the board. Any other items that we have going out there, Patrice?
Yeah, Grand Canyon Protection Act, still near and dear to our hearts up here. And I know that I've been asked on behalf of Grand Canyon Trust to meet with a number of senators back there for the Grand Canyon Protection Act. So I just wanted to see how's it going? Where are we? When's this going to get passed?
So all depends on the schedule for sure. Obviously, the infrastructure bill it really has taken a lot of the time in the Senate. But let us check on the schedule and seeing where they're standing at this point.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, the House passed the bill already. So it's in the Senate. Senator Sinema, of course, is the sponsor over there. You know, it all depends where Senator Manchin is. And they need 60 votes over there. So it's going to be an uphill climb to get 10 Republicans to support cloture on that, because you need 60 votes really, except for budget reconciliation. So I think it'll probably languish, but it could be attached to something.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll just have to get, I know it's not the answer you want to hear, Supervisor, but I just got to tell you the truth.
And I know Chairman Grijalva has been really checking in on not only us, Senator Sinema, but other senators across the way to trying to get this. This is one of his top priorities.
And Chairman Grijalva put it in his budget reconciliation package.
So might be part of that.
It's time to get a pass. This is ridiculous. The centennial year is almost over. Oh, I guess it is over.
How about you get an extra year for everything?
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chair, this is
Yeah,
Lena.
Go ahead,
I
Lena.
have several of them. I want to make sure that our law enforcement, the federal agencies, these public lands, they need to allow the local agencies to hire their law enforcement positions, either fill them or else give them the positions back. They've been cut back, and now our county sheriffs, deputy sheriffs are the ones that are covering these federal lands. So that I want to make sure that stays on there. The federal agencies also would like local hire, and that local hire that means within the 30-mile radius, and that needs to be expended. I know that the Grand Canyon Superintendent and Glen Canyon been trying to expand that beyond 30 miles so that they can hire local people. I don't know where that 30 miles come from. Probably somebody in the city thought of that and thought that was far away, but out here it's not. We need people to be able to think they're being hired or be able to be hired locally. So that one is another one that we need to really push for and help the federal agencies with that. And another is the towns like Fredonia. There's a lot of federal dollars that are being poured out, and those federal grants, they require matching funds. And when the town cannot come up with a matching fund, then what? They lose out. So there might be some kind of clause in there or something where maybe some of these grants, they can go around those matching dollars that are being required. If they need funding, they don't have matching grants. They just cannot apply for those grants that they need to apply for. So that would be something else that needs to be brought up. All right. Thank you.
All right. Bob and Anna have about 2 minutes left. Other board members? Okay, not hearing from the other board members, I'll go to Bob and Anna.
Yeah, appreciate you raising those issues, Supervisor Horstman and Supervisor Fowler. With regards to the small towns, there are a lot of programs, Supervisor Fowler, that waive the federal matching requirement or for especially rural. They can be in colonial communities and other things. The match is much smaller. So let us know if there are specific instances when that's happening, especially with regards to Fredonia, and we can weigh in with some of the federal agencies to help. And one last thing, Supervisor Fowler, a couple of weeks ago, we chatted about Lake Powell. I'm still looking into that issue. I've got a call and email into Interior to see if there's any potential that we can find funding or push some more water into the lake. I mean, obviously God is our greatest provider of water, but we'll see if there's some other ways we can provide that.
Thank you. And we're working, continue to work on our end as well. And so thank you.
And to use the last 2 minutes, again, it's been a privilege to represent you guys in Washington. We truly enjoy the topics and the work that you guys provide to us as we knock on those doors and figuratively and through Zoom. And then more than anything else, in looking at how we can help your communities, our communities, get the resources that they need to do better. So truly appreciate the partnership.
Yeah, I actually will reciprocate and appreciate all the work you're doing. And as you know, plug us in when we're at the appropriate times. We can always fly out there if we need to, depending upon the item and how critical it is. But yeah, absolutely. And then we can Zoom like we're doing now too, huh? Yeah.
I'm done with Zoom. I'd rather see you guys in person.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Mr. Chair, one more item that we did not touch on.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's the buildings, these federal buildings that are on tribal lands. We have talked about this, and I toured O'Halloran through there. I toured O'Halloran and his staff all the way through my district. But anyway, just talking about this different issues, but one of them is these abandoned buildings, since there are a lot of infrastructure dollars that are coming through. We need to clean up tribal from these federal buildings that are abandoned. They're BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs buildings that are just abandoned. And they are a health hazard, and there's some that are beautiful, they can be restored, and they need to be able to let the local community decide how to address those, but they need to be assessed and cleaned up for economic development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. We've talked to Jack Jackson and Keith Breckus and other folks in O'Halloran's office, and they're still working on this issue. They still haven't gotten the answers they want, but we'll continue to press them, and I appreciate you bringing that issue up again.
So we're past Bob and Anna's hard stop. They have to dash off to another meeting right now. So again, thank you. And this is, work in progress, chance to go over the federal piece, start looking into what we need to do, where we need to move to, and we can shape it up more as we go on from the board perspective and help you guys out in terms of consolidating also. So really appreciate all the work you're doing. Anything else, Steve?
No, sir. That is it.
Anna, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And Mr. Chair, I want to also just comment and appreciate Claire Harper for putting all this together. So thank you, Claire.
Yes, thank you, Claire. That's wonderful. It's been wonderful. Okay, we do have an executive session that we need to go into. We do not have any public business after that session. So once the session's done, the board will be done their work for the day. But we need, actually, I'll turn to Rose in terms of would it be your recommendation that we go into executive session?
Yes, Chair Ryan, the board has discretion to take the next item in executive session.
Okay. And so, and just a note before we hop out of this, why don't we take 5, give everybody a chance to do, a 5-minute break, give us a chance to hop in. Now, for the sake of public, this will be end of the public process. We're going to close off this meeting, and then we'll get into the executive session. Patrice.
You want a motion to go into executive session?
Yes.
And would you also, as part of that motion, indicate that we will adjourn thereafter executive session?
Yeah. Yes, that would help. Yes.
If that's the case, then I will so make that motion.
All right. Thank you, Patrice. All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. All right. So again, we need to close down this one, hop into the executive session, Teams meeting, and we're going to take 5. All right.
Is this in person or a Teams meeting?
Oh, it is in person. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right.
So I guess we'll all be meeting downstairs. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry about that. I kind of lost track.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
It's still Tuesday.
Cool.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. See you downstairs.